Everybody. Today we're going to talk about the culture war between Kid Rock, Turning Point USA, and Bad Bunny Super Bowl and why it does and doesn't matter simultaneously. A lot of people think it doesn't matter because, on one hand, it kind of doesn't. But when hundreds of millions of people come together to watch something and it becomes the biggest cultural and entertainment event of the year, there's a lot of hidden agendas and also just in general things that do have an impact on everybody. So we're going to talk about that, some other stuff intertwined with this, and then the Epstein file scandal that is either boiling on or broiling on. I've been using both words interchangeably, and I don't know if broiling makes sense with an R, but I did it anyway. So, wow, I'm so rebellious. But no, I'm just kidding. Dreamer podcast starts now. Give me a thumbs up on the video if it sounds good. Thumbs up in the chat, and then let's get it cracking. Tell me what you guys think as we're rolling in. I might read a few before I tell you what I thought.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
What's going on Facebook? What's going on YouTube, Rumble, and all the streaming platforms? Appreciate y'all for being here. Marla, Summer, we got Secrets in the, I can't read the rest of your name because it doesn't pop up. Zach Linder, we got M. Gree, Darren, Hype 12, Renzov 12. We got the two, are you guys collaborating or you just both had 12 at the end of your name? Either way, that's a crazy. Didn't the Seahawks just win too? And that's like their whole thing. They call their, I guess their, I almost said audience, their fan base, like the 12th man or whatever. But yeah, congratulations to anybody that's pumped in Seahawks in Seattle. I mean, but I think the rest of the country's like, it's kind of a boring game. I would say that the most interesting thing about the game, no offense to the Patriots and Seahawks fans, but the most interesting part was the controversy around Bad Bunny and Kid Rock. It made for some discussion. And also, I just found it very fascinating. I'm just going to sip my coffee, see what you guys are saying real quick, then I'm going to get in. I need to take a sip now because I always just start talking because obviously, like, there's a lot of pressure on me. I'm on a live show. Everybody wants me to talk. That's why they're here. But I also want to drink my coffee. And by the time I finish my live stream, it's always cold. It's quite the dilemma. It's like, do I let the people down and just sit here and just drink my coffee and make you guys watch that, which is no fun? Or do I let it go cold? Today, I'm going to be selfish. So normally, if I didn't have this camera in front of me, I'd be just sipping real slow, sitting sideways like Paul Wall. All right, so let's get into it. Thank you guys for being patient. I'm going to start with the Bad Bunny halftime show, and then I'm going to get to the Kid Rock one and just kind of some funny things I thought of. So I get both sides of the equation. Like, Bad Bunny speaks all Spanish. So even though, through a lady that, I was seeing at one point, she was Spanish and she, listened to Bad Bunny. So I already knew who Bad Bunny was. I'm going to confess, I had a Bad Bunny song on my playlist. He sang it right away and I liked that song. But after that, it's like, I had no idea what he was saying. Right. So I thought the scenery looked cool. Like, it was cool that they were in a field on a farm. Like, if you're Spanish, that makes a lot of sense to you. There's a lot of Spanish farmers. It's big in Mexican culture, maybe Puerto Rican culture. I'm not really sure. I'm part Puerto Rican, but at the same time, I actually grew up on a farm. My stepfather's Mexican. A lot of probably information people didn't need, but in general, it's like, if you're Spanish, it really probably went super hard that halftime show. But in America, we live in America. Most people speak English. Most people at the show speak English. Even for me, who doesn't dislike Bad Bunny, I'm not like a hater or anything. I just, it was only as good as it could be. Like, the scenery looked cool. It was like interesting. I thought it was like more entertaining than the Kendrick show, which, even though I love Kendrick Lamar, I thought it was terrible. There's only like so much I could really enjoy it because I don't speak Spanish. So it's like, what's he saying? I wish there were subtitles. I completely understand why everybody in America that doesn't speak Spanish, not everyone feels this way, but I get the gist of like, this doesn't really make much sense. Somebody in my comments on Instagram, or at least in my messages, I think he was Spanish, but he made the perfect analogy. So I'm going to give him credit. He said it would be like if Kenny Chesney opened for the World Cup or some sort of Spanish event. Like, it just wouldn't make sense. Kenny Chesney is a legend, but if he like sang the opening for FC Barcelona, most of the audience would be like, I would have rather like a Spanish artist that we all know, not some random guy singing English when half this crowd doesn't speak English. So it's like on that note, I completely agree with the people that were annoyed at Bad Bunny because they just don't speak English, and it's like not a doesn't make sense for an American event. With that being said, some people liked it, some people didn't, to each their own. If you hated it, that's your opinion. It's music. Not everyone has to like the same music. And especially if you speak English, you certainly don't have to enjoy, entertainment that you can't even really fully understand. It makes sense. And then I thought it was interesting, like the counter signal of like Kid Rock and a bunch of country artists that I've never heard of. It's almost like conservatives. I get why TPUSA did it. I think it's like a smart business tactic. If everybody's annoyed at the halftime show because it doesn't culturally make sense to most of the country, or at least a large portion of it, then it makes sense to try to capitalize off that. But I just think it's funny that they keep reusing Kid Rock all the time. Like, is that really all we have on our side? I feel like there's a lot of extraordinarily talented and relevant artists that could have been used for the TPUSA halftime show, but it's like all they ever do is just like rehash Kid Rock every single day. And I think the part that I find funny, and this is just a observation. I think when I say this, people think I'm defending Bad Bunny's lyrics. Yo no comprendo. I don't even know what he's saying, but I'm sure it's a lot of like basic pop, women, sexual stuff. I don't even know what he's saying. Yo no comprendo. Yo no, I don't understand Bad Bunny's lyrics. So when I say something about Kid Rock and Turning Point, some people are always caught in such a false paradigm that they just assume that I'm coming out and defending like everything Bad Bunny's ever said. But as somebody that is conservative and I do like music, I find it hilarious that they chose Kid Rock because he's got some of the most degenerate lyrics. Like he opened with the song Ball with the Ball, right? Which is like one of his hit songs from back in the day. I'm just going to read it because the song is literally about hookers, meth, porno. Like it's like such a gang violence. All the things that conservatives pretend to not like and Christians say is immoral. That's in the first song that Kid Rock opened with. I'm just going to read the lyrics because I'm sure he edited it for the thing. And I'll explain what I'm saying later. I'm not judging Kid Rock for writing a song at one point in his life that I disagree with now, because I've written songs in my 20s, probably even early 30s, that I disagree with now. So I'm not here to play holier than thou and condemn an artist for saying something, but I just find it hilarious that Turning Point's like, we don't like Bad Bunny, because it's Spanish. Fair. We don't understand what he's saying. Me too, even though I speak a little Spanish, but I still have no idea what he's saying. All of these things about Bad Bunny, it's like this is like degenerate, it's liberal, it's all of these things. And I'm like, fair, right? Do your own halftime show. I think it's a brilliant idea to just try to counter signal the Super Bowl. But then the first song that comes out with Kid Rock, I'm going to read the lyrics. And this is for the questions that don't have any answers, the midnight glancers and the topless dancers, the gander freaks, cars packed with speakers, G's with 40s and the chicks with beepers, northern lights and the southern comfort, and it don't even matter if their veins are punctured. All the crackheads, the critics, the cynics, and my heroes, all my heroes at the methadone clinics. All you bastards at the IRS, okay, I feel that line. For the crooked cops and the cluttered desks, for the shots of jacks and the caps of meth, half pints of love and the fists of stress, for the hookers all tricking out in Hollywood, and for my hoods of the world misunderstood, I said it's all good and it's all fun. Now get in the pit and try to love someone. All right, let's go to verse 2. It's the first song he opened with. For the time bombs ticking and the heads that hang, all the gangs getting money and the heads they bang bang, wild Mustangs, the porno flicks, all my homies in the county in cell block 6, the grits when there ain't enough eggs to cook, and for DB Cooper and the money he took, you can look for answers, but that ain't fun. Now get in the pit and try to love someone. So that song is like, I don't care if you're a hooker, all my homies gang banging and shooting people in the head. Yeah, for sure. That's cool. Like, I know what it was. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful because, I don't dislike Kid Rock or anything. But I think Kid Rock grew up rich, and I think he was kind of like a gimmick. They were like, all right, let's make this. I think his dad, I looked it up. His dad owned a bunch of like car dealerships. He lived in like a really nice house. Okay, that's fine. I don't care if you're poor or rich. It doesn't really matter. But it's like he gets to the music industry as a rich kid. And I think they did to him what they do to most people. And I don't even want to compare myself now because I don't think it's appropriate. But they always have an idea of what they want white kids to listen to. So they're like, what if you did this trailer trash thing and talked about hookers and gang banging and hoods and meth, like that's what white trash people like. And obviously there's people of all kinds that do stuff and it's relatable. And there's a lot of white people that had a hard upbringing that know people who did drugs, like obviously most of America, because half the country's hooked on drugs. But you get what I'm saying. It's like, it's to me, it's not really this organic music that came from the soul. I feel like he was this industry plant type where they're like, all right, white boy, put degeneracy and porno and hookers and a bunch of gang banging and meth, and let the white boys hear that music, and we're going to turn it and make it a little bit country so they understand it. And overall, all I'm just saying is, like, I'm sorry for over analyzing it. I don't I used to listen to Kid Rock when I was like 13, 14, and honestly, was that really good for me to be listening to when I was 12, 13, and 14? It was probably horrible for me. I mean, what a sick world that we live in, where they're feeding this music to me when I'm like in middle school. But it is what it is. I think I turned out okay, luckily. But at the same time, this is the Turning Point Counter Signal halftime show, and the reason that I actually love it is because I feel like this perfectly symbolizes the culture war in America. Right? You have the left wing. Let's just call the Super Bowl left wing. Jay-Z and Rock Nation, I believe they're behind who's choosing the artist, and they're picking halftime shows that don't really make sense to most of the country. I'm a Kendrick Lamar. I think he's one of the better rappers of the last 20, 30 years, especially his old stuff. Like, Kendrick Lamar is an extraordinarily talented lyricist. And I actually like Kendrick Lamar. I think he's brilliant when he's on point. I couldn't stand his halftime show. I thought Bad Bunny's halftime show was better. Kendrick's halftime show didn't have any of his hits. It was like this obscure performance for like himself. Like, most people who like his music didn't even think it was that good. Like, I'm a huge fan of music, live shows, hip hop music. I love rap. I'm the target audience for this show, and I didn't even think the show was good, even though I've seen Kendrick perform way better than that. So it's like, why are they choosing these people for halftime shows? Kendrick's doing this like FU type show to the country. Nobody really likes it that much. Then they choose Bad Bunny, who speaks Spanish, who's going to appeal to, like, if you're Mexican in America or you're Spanish in America and you grew up super Spanish, I bet that Bad Bunny halftime show was incredible, because it's like speaking to your culture, it's speaking to your heritage, it's speaking to things it's speaking your language. But to most of America who speaks English, it's like, all right, that wasn't really for me. I like Bad Bunny. I mean, I'm not like the biggest fan, but it's like, I'm not as big of a hater as everyone else. It was whatever to me. It was cool looking, but I just don't know what he was saying. It's like, it was better than I thought it was going to be, I guess. But also, I don't know. I didn't really have any expectations. So why are the left, why is Rock Nation or Jay-Z or whoever's, picking these halftime shows? Is it true that they're kind of like culturally humiliating us, or at least just signaling like, you're not in power anymore? Like, this is the performance we're going to do. We don't care if people like it. We'd rather appeal to most of the world than you. And, people like Matt Walsh will post stuff like, I thought it was terrible. They're rubbing this in your face, this and that. And in many ways, Matt is completely right. Like, they are doing that. I guess they just know that nobody really will do anything about it. Like, every white person will want to watch their, Super Bowl. And every person who speaks English that doesn't like Bad Bunny will still watch the Super Bowl, and it's still going to get high ratings. And then they can appeal to all these other people. So I guess it's similar to, and I don't know if I would say, I hate to make this comparison, but it's kind of like when Republicans vote for Trump and then Trump hangs out with Lindsey Graham, starts wars for neocons, and becomes George Bush Sr. and a socialist, starts printing money and, spending like Biden on steroids. Trump knows that conservative men and Republican men are not to be taken seriously, because they'll just lick his boots and say it tastes like Willy Wonka's chocolate. I'm not talking about every conservative man, but nobody takes the conservative movement that seriously in America, because, they will cower to whatever Trump does and make excuses for it instead of standing on their morals and values. Same thing with the halftime show. Yeah, Bad Bunny's not a good fit for the United States of America, but you're still going to watch it. They know you're going to watch it. I'm going to watch it. They know I'm going to watch it. And nobody's taking the counter signal that seriously anyway, because it's like a bunch of Christian conservatives who are saying, we really don't like the degeneracy of Bad Bunny and it doesn't make sense for America. So here's Ba with the Ba, some white guy, speaking lyrics about meth, hookers, pornos. Oh yeah, this is the Christian conservative. Like it's everything is like a mockery of itself, you know? They did purposely do that with Bad Bunny because they don't care about Americans, people who speak English, white people. You know, these are the people that are totally fine with replacing you. That's why they're like, you know, here's a show for other people, you know, people some people I saw say, "Oh, Bad Bunny doesn't really have an audience, you know, it's like, you know, it's all fake." He has a huge audience. It's just people who speak Spanish. Like there's probably 100 million people in America who speak Spanish. They're lining up to see Bad Bunny. Not all of them, but you know, when he does a stadium in Los Angeles, it sells out in 2 seconds. He's the second biggest artist in the world right now, if not the biggest. Like he's on a level that most people don't understand because they don't speak Spanish, you know, which is totally fine. You don't have to like him, but he is huge in the world and especially among Latinos. He's like their Drake right now, or they're like MJ. And the people who run the Super Bowl are like, we can kill two birds with one stone. You know, we could put Bad Money there. We can, you know, appeal to Hispanics. We could get a whole new market to watch the Super Bowl. And all the whites and all the conservatives and all the Republicans, they're going to throw a little fit for 5 minutes, watch Kid Rock talk about pornos, hookers, and meth, and then they'll come right back to the Super Bowl. So, you know, I think that's someone said, do football viewers speak Spanish? No. Maybe you just got here, maybe you're just not listening to what I'm saying. I'm just balancing multiple ideas at once. You're going to have to stick with me because a lot of people's analysis is very simplistic. This is more, it's not the most complex thing. It's not like we're studying for a PhD or anything here, but I'm not saying it was the right performance for the Super Bowl. I don't think it was. I think it was the wrong performance for the Super Bowl. It was the wrong performance for America. And most of this country speaks English, and people at the stadium didn't even seem to like it that much. But what I'm saying, and this is the part that you're purposely ignoring, is I'm not saying that it was a good performance or good for the country, at least for, I think it was a good performance for people who speak Spanish. For people who speak English, it was as good as you want to believe it was because you don't really know what he was saying. But with that being said, listen to this part because this is the important part. No one takes conservative men seriously. The elites laugh in your face. They control Donald Trump, yet you would lick the dirt off his shoes and say it was chocolate, chocolate chip. They don't take your activism seriously because you'll watch Turning Point on YouTube for 5 minutes and go right back to the Goy Slop Bowl. They don't take you seriously. Nobody takes you seriously. They know they can just keep doing this to white men, conservatives, Republicans. And this is my personal perspective on it. It's because a lot of people don't actually have any morals or values anymore on the right wing. And I'm not acting like I'm so holier than thou. I'm just being honest about it. They just know that your activism isn't based on a solid foundation. If it was so Christian and so conservative that you were rejecting the wickedness of the Super Bowl, then you wouldn't have a white trash artist talking about pornos and meth and hookers. Like that isn't conservative or Christian. Yet that is the main, because this is the Republican Party. It's not about anything that they say. It's just about counter signaling the left. It's like Republicans will print trillions of dollars, do socialism, do borderline communism, start the same wars as Obama and George Bush, have no conservative values whatsoever. Trump's not even a Christian. He's wishy-washy on immigration, but that's all you want. You just want somebody who goes on Fox News like a Pete Hegseth and just regurgitates what the Rothschilds probably want to do. And you think it's cool because Pete Hegseth's a white guy with tattoos who reminds you of your conservative friend. I'm just being honest. I thought the Bad Bunny performance was better than Kendrick's because I just thought Kendrick's was terrible, but it's not the right fit for the Super Bowl. But I'm explaining to conservatives why this is all happening because nobody takes you seriously, because you don't respect yourself, because you don't have any backbone. And I'm not saying every single person, I'm not trying to overgeneralize, but the elites are laughing hysterically in your face. They're like, we know we could play this, and they'll still watch the Goy Bowl. We know we can get Trump to sell them out and work for people who hate Jesus Christ, but they'll still love Donald Trump. They'll still defend him. They'll still act like he's the savior of Christianity and conservatism when he's a New York elitist liberal who basically works for the Epstein orbit. The same foreign policy that Epstein has, that George Bush has, that, you know, Bill Clinton had, that Obama had, that Biden followed, is nearly the exact same foreign policy that Donald Trump's doing. He takes hundreds of millions of donors from people that Trump believes like a foreign nation more than America. And conservative men would still grovel at his feet because it's almost like conservative men and conservatives, not all, but a lot, they're not looking for conservatism or Christianity or even America First nationalism. They're looking for like a parody. It's like they're looking for like it's like a kid where you just like hire someone to dress as Barney and like dance at their, like, hey, I'm Barney, guys, and all the kids go crazy at like a 5-year-old's birthday party. That's like Republicans. You give them like a parody and a character of what it means to be conservative and Republican, like Kid Rock or Trump, and then they think it's awesome. They don't even care that it's not that impressive. It's not a good performance. He's lip syncing. His first song, he's lip syncing off bass. It's like they messed up the audio or something. And he's lip syncing a 30-year-old song about hookers, meth, and porno. That's the conservative Christian, like, counter signal to Bad Bunny. It's like, yeah, you're going to lose that culture war because it's like, find some new interesting artists that have an actual message or something to say, not like this parody of what it means to be white. And I'm guessing that that's the marketing behind Kid Rock's whole persona in general. I don't know for sure. You'd have to interview Kid Rock, but it seems like a very orchestrated, like, all right, let's make him into a white boy who talks about gang banging and pornos and meth, and sell this, white boy narrative to the whites. They'll now like the degenerate. Like it doesn't even feel organic. His whole, like, I guess, image. And you come out under a major label, especially like in the 90s and 2000s, they're heavily crafting like who you are. If you listen to Eminem's first album, Eminem was like talking about God. Infinite. It's a great album. He would talk about God. Yeah, he was a battle rapper, but his lyrics were not super evil and degenerate. He was like a normal person who was just a really talented, Caucasian. And then you look at Eminem as soon as he signs to Interscope with like Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine, and then they start crafting an image because they're like, you know what, Eminem, we want to take you from like this talented battle rapper to this household name. And then it becomes, let's come up with an image. And you listen to Eminem's music, it's ridiculously evil. It's like talking about like killing his mom and his girlfriend. Like he's like a psychopath. But is he really even a psychopath, or are they just pretending that he's a psychopath for some weird, sick, disturbed reason because they know that he's so talented? No matter what Eminem says, white kids and black people in general, like, Eminem's very respected in all communities, but they know people will like it because Eminem's just so talented. He could make anything sound cool, but they chose to make him this evil, weird white kid who talked about drugs and like killing his family. Like it's literally like Jason, like, I don't know, horror movie level psychosis. But they came up with that narrative. That wasn't who Eminem naturally was. They made him into that and then sold him to a bunch of white kids. Why did they do that? I don't know. Is that the only way they could have sold him? It's the same thing with Kid Rock. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, but as a lyricist, like, God bless Kid Rock. He's definitely like got a good voice. He sings good country. He's definitely got good hooks and like a cool vibe. But as far as a lyricist, like, his lyrics are garbage. He's rhyming one word. It's like a nursery rhyme, like, all the kids with the porno flicks, and I got the chicks, and I got the kicks. It's like, okay, is that the only way they could sell it to white America? They had to rap about meth and pornos and hookers or whatever. Maybe that's what he wanted to do, or maybe that's what the label came together with his manager and we're like, this is who you are, and this is who we're going to sell to America. But in general, before I move on to the Epstein stuff, this is what I'm finding, and it's not just right wingers or left wingers. It's a decent part of our country. People stop thinking critically because they've exported their opinions to other people, right? It's like, well, this is what Trevor Noah said, so this is what I think, or John Oliver said that, or Rachel Maddow said that, or I watched Fox News and they said this, and Ben Shapiro said this, or, like, everyone's just not thinking because they're listening to these talking head drones that are just like corporate retards. So when you think about sort of this sort of stuff, I think a lot of people, I asked people in my audience on Instagram, like, what they thought about it. There's a lot of smart people in my audience because, you kind of put out content and you get the audience that over the content you put out. But and I'm not trying to act condescending towards people that aren't in our great, super smart, better than everyone audience. I'm just kidding. But in the general public, I think, especially in politics, mostly, they're thinking so one-track minded. So if I come out and I literally say, I don't think Bad Bunny was right for the halftime show, it's way cooler for people who speak Spanish and Mexicans and Latinos and people in this country that came from Spanish countries than it is for Americans. I do think it's kind of culturally a slap in the face to, you know, white conservative Americans, or even in general just Americans who don't speak Spanish in some ways. Like it's not, this is not like a defense of Bad Bunny being chosen. I do think they chose it to kind of like, you know, completely ignore you and steamroll you like they do in everything else, and just, you know, sell it to another audience because they know you'll still be there. But then it's like I go over and say I think that like I'd rather watch Bad Bunny than Kid Rock just because it's culturally more interesting, and I don't need like the same cheesy fireworks. Like they've been doing the same pyrotechnics for every show for like 20 years. Like I don't know, it's like, oh, Kid Rock, and they're singing about, it's like it's almost not even artistically conservative. Like I love conservative Christian music. I like country. I'm more of like a Alan Jackson, George Strait, Garth Brooks. I like 80s, 90s country, 70s, I guess to an extent, but I'm like a big Alan Jackson fan, and like I like all those type of artists. Um Newer country, some of it's cool, some of it's okay, but I feel like just watching a little bit of the Turning Point show, no disrespect, it's not a creative conservative, you know, show. It's basically just like an fu to the other side, but just lacking any sort of depth or entertainment for me. Yeah, he sings good, but you know, it is what it is. But I do think that, I just think that it's kind of all a joke, and it kind of reminds me of politics. It's like the left wing is Bolsheviks and the right wings are Zionists, who basically are Bolsheviks in disguise, in my opinion. So it's just like, you know, you pick this side, you pick this side, you fight over it. And then anybody who has like a reasonable, nuanced opinion about it, you must be defending one side or the other. It's like, no, I could just see right through it all. But smart business move by Turning Point. I'm sure they got a lot of views and a lot of traffic. Great idea. I love the idea. Um, I think without judging and hating people, and saying you can't do this or I'm better than this, I'm not talking about being holier than thou, but I do think Republicans need to start believing in something, not just Trump and hating the left. Because when it's just like, let's just do the opposite of the left, you end up sometimes doing the same exact thing as the left, just a worse version, and being like, but he likes Trump, so we like degenerate music now. There's degenerate songs that I've made that I would never ever perform at a Turning Point event. Like I wouldn't perform a song about porno, hookers, and meth. I've never written a song about meth and porno and hookers, but if I did, I would never perform it as my opening song of a Turning Point Christian conservative countersignal event. But that just shows you how soulless a lot of these people on the right are. And I know this from experience, just seeing in conservative media and stuff. Once again, I'm not trying to sit and act like I'm a completely flawless person. I've just noticed that no one really cares about anything. It's like it's all a script, it's all a show, it's all a screw the left. But if the right does the same exact thing as the left, there's no one there to call it out because they don't actually care. Like I actually want our currency to be stronger. And this is, I saw Peter Schiff say this, and he's the first semi-popular person I've ever seen say this besides myself. I'm sure there's other podcasters you guys listen to say it because it's the truth. But when Trump lost in 2020, or however you think the election went, in a weird way, it was a blessing in disguise economically, because he got to pretend like the economy is just piss poor because Joe Biden screwed it up and he's trying to make it better. They printed too much money during COVID. Democrats printed too much money. Trump printed too much money. Biden got in. He printed too much money, spent too much money. Trump's back in now, and he's spending at the same rates as the elevated COVID rates that Biden and he did in 2020. It's like, if you just believe in left and right, you can't see that. And here's the part that really annoys me about Biden, obviously, but also Donald Trump, is when Biden's in office, he wants to pretend like the economy's good because it looks good on him. When Trump's in office, he wants to pretend like the economy's good because it looks good on him. Just because the Nvidia stock is taking over our stock market and rising, and like the top 10 tech companies are making all the money with AI and all of these computer chips and stuff, it doesn't mean that we're not getting screwed. When they printed and spent trillions of dollars during COVID, we got robbed. Every time they send money to Ukraine and Israel, we're getting robbed. You know, I could say for the last like 4 or 5 years, the price of everything has almost doubled, but wages are not doubling. The amount that these tech companies are paying out people are not doubling. It's like they're able to squeeze us, where it's like the price of everything's going up. they're cutting profit margins, they're paying everybody left. And then they sit and say, look, the economy's good because there's $20 trillion in the stock market or whatever. That doesn't mean the average person's doing good. We're getting screwed. Whether they say inflation is 50%, 80%, 10%, it's down, it's gone. I know what the prices were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and I know what the average wages were, and I know what they are now. We're absolutely getting completely robbed. And this is the real take, is like, it was Trump in 2020 printing too much money and spending too much. It was Biden his entire term, and Trump is still spending at those rates. So if you actually, the point that I'm getting with this whole rant, if you really care about fiscal conservatism, right? Because sometimes you meet a Republican, they say, I'm socially liberal and I'm fiscally conservative or whatever. If you're fiscally conservative, regardless of what you are socially, you should care like, most libertarians do, like Ron Paul, like, myself, Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, others, regardless of your affiliation, when the money's being spent, because that means you actually care about something. If your entire existence of being a Republican and a conservative is literally just worshiping, like, counter signaling, well, Trump says screw you to the left, so I like him. But he is the left. He's a like a New York City at one point leftist who would donate to Hillary Clinton and Democrats in his adult life. I'm not saying necessarily all his views were leftist, but he is one of the elites. Like he's, everyone's like, oh, we're draining the swamp. He's golfing with Lindsey Graham all the time. It's like Lindsey Graham posts a new selfie with Trump every day. It's like, is he living in Air Force One now, Lindsey Graham? Lord knows he doesn't have anywhere else to be, because he's a war-osexual, which means he's sexually attracted to war. Like most men are straight and they're sexually attracted to women. Lindsey Graham is sexually attracted to bombing civilians. He's a sicko. And speaking of someone who likes bombing civilians, here's another reason. It's like, what does it mean to be conservative and Republican and Christian? Like, what is that to a Republican, right? Are you against war? Sometimes, but not when Trump does it. Like, can Obama sell you a war when you're a liberal? Then you have no values. You just like Obama. If Biden does something and it's like, this is who Trump is. And then I just want to play a video of Kid Rock. Kid Rock said that Israel should bomb a bunch of civilians to get the hostages free, and he used the word civilians. So to me, not only does Kid Rock, sing 30-year-old songs about porno and hookers and meth and crackheads and promoting gang violence like other black artists that people don't like because they don't like the gang violence, Kid Rock is also just totally fine with literally blowing up civilians. So it's like, this is the darling of the Republican Party because he drinks Bud Light and likes Donald Trump and hangs out with Trump. It's like, count me out.
I don't disagree with what Israel's doing. It's like, they should just go in there and be like, you know what? We want our hostages back. If we don't have them back, clock starts now in fucking 24 hours. We're going to start bombing motherfuckers and killing fucking civilians. 30, 40,000 a fucking time. So you civilians better fucking pack up and fucking get these fucking motherfuckers and you go against Hamas. You fucking go against them. We're not playing fucking games with you. But that's the only thing people understand. This is what happened in Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
So let's use Kid Rock's logic, right? I think, in my opinion, Joe Biden was one of the, if not the worst president like ever. Let's just say he's the worst president ever, right? Joe Biden's starting wars. He's funding wars in Ukraine. Hundreds of thousands of people are dying. He's mandating vaccines. Everyone knows what our side of politics thinks about the COVID vaccines for the most part. So does this logic apply to Kid Rock? Should another country be able to just kill tens of thousands of American civilians until we overthrow Joe Biden? No. What did Kid Rock do when Joe Biden was in office? Did Kid Rock overthrow Joe Biden? No, he just sat there doing what he always does. So, but that logic doesn't apply to Kid Rock. I think Joe Biden is a horrific leader. I think his leadership got millions of people killed around the world and, in my opinion, in the country because of a lot of his lockdown measures. Like, I think the death toll of a Biden presidency, especially when you add in him funding Israel and funding Ukraine during these wars, they both broke out during his term. I think the death toll is in the millions. But that doesn't mean I blame the average American citizen who did or didn't vote for Donald Trump. But Kid Sicko in the Head Rock is totally fine with just killing tens of thousands of kids, women, children, civilians, just because they can't overthrow their leader. We live in the greatest country in the world, and we can't even do that. Yet you're expecting like a very low technology, like powerless group of people to overthrow their leadership. Like it's just that easy. Like this is why nobody takes conservatives that seriously, And I'm going to play another clip in a second, but let me just wrap that up for those who are new or just those who are not understand what I'm saying. Let me start with Bad Bunny. If you spoke Spanish and you're Spanish, I think that probably went super hard. If you speak English, you live in America, you don't understand Spanish, either you hated it because you didn't understand what he was saying, or you only kind of liked it because, it just was entertaining based on like the way that they were singing and dancing and like I think the background scenery was cool, but it's like it just, even if you liked it or if you hated it, I think it's pretty clear, at least for me, it wasn't the right show for the American halftime Super Bowl. Someone in my Instagram messages nailed it. He said it would be like Kenny Chesney singing at the opening of FC Barcelona. Like Kenny Chesney is a good country artist, but it wouldn't make sense for him to sing at FC Barcelona. Doesn't really make sense for Bad Bunny to sing at the American Super Bowl halftime show, but we're being led by people who don't like us, who are totally fine replacing us with people who do or don't speak English, and they don't care about us. And also, they don't respect us because they know that the average conservative person, the average Christian, the average white person will throw a fit for 10 minutes and then turn on the Super Bowl show. Like they know that our voting block and our, I would say cultural block is not to be taken seriously. Right. And then you go to the Turning Point halftime show and it's like Kid Rock singing about, Ba with the Ba, which is a song about hookers, meth, getting in the pit and trying to love somebody and gang banging and shooting people. Like it's literally just like a degenerate song that the record label and him came up with at one point to be like, how do we poison the minds of white kids and, feed them the most degenerate, evil stuff so we can destroy an entire generation, which is pretty much what they did with Eminem and every other musician that they pushed in the 90s and 2000s, because they probably wanted to break down the white community the same way they broke down the black community. Hip hop was not always about gang banging and violence. In fact, it didn't start on that at all. But the record execs at a certain point were like, give this to the blacks, give this to the whites, bang, bang, bang. 20 years later, look at the results. It's like everybody knows somebody that died of a pharmaceutical, because as they're pumping drugs through the music, the pharmaceutical industry is pumping drugs in reality, and drugs that are killing millions of people. And nothing ever happens to these people, even when they're caught in court and losing cases of like, oh, didn't know about that with Oxycontin, our bad. I guess we just made a big mistake or whatever, So that's the right counter signal. And my reasoning before I move on is I've come to the conclusion, just being in this space for a while, is most Republicans and Christians and conservatives, they don't actually believe in anything. And I think that's a huge problem in Europe as well. Like you look at the UK, they're being completely replaced. In Germany, in France, like Italy. I mean, some countries are doing better than others, like Poland and Hungary, but for the most part, Europe is completely failing because the people there, they don't believe in anything. It's like they have no beliefs, they have no morals, they have no conviction. And when you have no conviction, you lose. You know what I'm saying? You have to have conviction in life. I like Djokovic, right? The tennis player. I knew he didn't take the COVID vaccine, so I always respected him for that, even though he sacrificed his prime 2 years of playing in tournaments. But, I also just recently found out he doesn't do gambling ads. He doesn't do alcohol ads. He doesn't do advertising that he doesn't believe in. I'm the same exact way. Even if I drink alcohol, I'm not trying to sell alcohol to people. Even if I've gambled, I don't think it's appropriate to sell gambling to people. I think it's evil. Why did an athlete do this? Every major athlete in America has no morals and no convictions. They have $500 million, yet they need to do this ad, and they need to do a Kalshi ad, and now it's a Poly Market ad, and now it's a DraftKings ad, and a FanDuel ad. It's like, how much is enough? I don't even have 1/1000th of your money, yet I would turn down that. If one of these companies came to me and said, here's $5 million to promote this for 5 years, I'd turn it down. You think I can't use $5 million? I don't have that much money. But it's a moral thing. I'd be like, no, it's not worth my soul. But an athlete with $200 million, everybody besides Djokovic can't turn down deals. Like, this is the problem in the world. It's not just the elites. It's not just Bad Bunny or Kid Rock. It's the fact that nobody has conviction. No men have morals. Like, what is a man? When you think of most men in America, I'm not trying to over stereotype, because there's a lot of great men and women in America. But when you think of like the average man in America, what do you think of? you probably think of somebody that's just like fat, drinking beer and watching football. You think of the average man in the UK, it's like they don't want to stand up for their country. They don't want to stand up for their heritage and their ethnic group. They don't even have a religion. And they're just sitting there getting drunk at a pub, watching a soccer game, drooling over, the Roman circus. It's like, I love sports. I love watching sports. I like playing sports, but I also double task. My whole life is not watching or playing sports. But the average man, like Bill Cooper used to say, Bill Cooper said, there's people that can't tell you anything about the world, but they could tell you who the third baseman of the New York Mets is. It's like, it's fine to know sports. I know a lot about sports, but is that all you know? Is that all men know in this world? So, I think that's the issue in the Western world, is that just men have no conviction. With that being said, also, I would say that the people running the West hate us ethnically, religiously, and nationally. And the leaders that Republicans, this is why I talk about similar stuff all the time, and it annoys people and it doesn't get clicks and views. But over time, people come back to me and say, "I'm sorry, Anomaly. You were right. I didn't realize it. I was wrong about Trump. Whatever." Our conservative Christian leaders, our American leaders, our the mainstream right wing leaders, they work for people who literally hate us and are seeking the destruction of our nation. So it's like, that's why they're just as, if not more, annoying than the left, because the left is the obvious group that doesn't actually agree with you. And then you have a bunch of right people who, like Kid Rock, are saying it's totally fine to blow up tens of thousands of civilians and women and kids because they can't overthrow their leader. Most countries can't overthrow their leader. America can't do that. There's left wingers and right wingers who would want to do that, but it's not even possible in our country. And it would be sick to justify the execution of like tens or hundreds of thousands of people in our country just because we can't overthrow our leaders. Like, that's not how things work. You don't just kill civilians because they can't do something that you want because you watch too much Fox News. But that's the average Republican man at this point. They're watching Zionist media. They're getting completely brainwashed. And they have no idea that the people that they're worshiping are basically working for somebody 2 or 3 pay grades above them, including Trump, people above Trump, that they don't share your religious or moral values, if you even have religious or moral values. Because if you have religious or moral values when it comes to what the left's doing, but you're totally fine with the right doing it as long as they just like Trump and drink Bud Light, then you don't actually have values and you don't deserve to be respected, So that's definitely what's going on. And I think when it comes to, Christians, Trump and the GOP are working for people who don't like Christ. Not only do they not believe in Jesus Christ, but in many cases, some of them hate Jesus Christ. So our country and Europe looks like nations that are basically led by people who hate the people there. Like, there's a reason everything feels this way, is because it's true. But what people on the right need to figure out is it's not just the left doing that. Yes, the left is doing that in an obvious fashion, and the right is doing it in a covert fashion. But the reason it never ends is because even when the right wins, they're not working for you. Even with immigration, the one thing I thought Trump was going to do to perfection, because that's like his whole shtick, he doesn't even do. He rigs immigration for the foreign nation that most of his administration works for. He can't even do immigration for you. He can't even do immigration for America. He has to rig the visa process to police the speech of people incoming to this country if they criticize the foreign nation that he essentially works on behalf of. It's like, we don't get anything in this country. And the reason is not just because the left sucks. It's because the right can't figure this stuff out. So I feel like the Bad Bunny versus, Kid Rock Super Bowl was an exact symbolism of that. It's like Bad Bunny was everything that conservatives thought it was and more. But then this fake counter signal from Turning Point with Kid Rock singing lyrics just as, if not more, degenerate is just a perfect symbolism of like why nothing ever moves the needle. And on top of the fact that they know they can just, push a Bad Bunny halftime show and you'll still watch the Super Bowl. They don't care. They don't take anybody seriously. I want to play this clip because it kind of fits into what we're talking about. This happened, I guess, 2 months ago. I just missed it, or maybe 3 or 4 months ago now. But Trump was asked about, because, he said he wanted to end the Ukraine war because he thinks it'll help him get into heaven. So I think it was Peter Doocy or one of those reporters. They said, Trump, you mentioned recently that, if you end the Ukraine war, you'll get into heaven. And Trump's response was like, I was just being cute. I don't think I'm not heaven bound. So you got to understand, like, not only does Trump work for people that hate Jesus Christ and Trump works for people that have no national loyalty to us, but he also is kind of self aware of it. Like, most Christians are like, I love my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I worship my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I beg for his forgiveness. I'm seeking his forgiveness. I believe in him completely. I believe I'm going to heaven. Trump, he acknowledges, like, he's not going to heaven. He knows he's not, because he's not Christian, and to be honest, he's not even doing good things, I believe. But let's take a listen to Trump himself, who admits, he's not going to heaven.
Go ahead. You had talked a couple weeks ago, you were doing an interview, and you talked about how you hope to end the war in Ukraine because it might help you get into heaven. How does this help? Does this help?
I mean, I'm being a little cute. I don't think there's anything going to get me in heaven. Okay, I really don't. I think I'm not maybe heaven bound. I may be in heaven right now as we fly in Air Force One. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make heaven, but
It's an interesting answer. I don't think any Christian would really say that, because, every Christian is seeking forgiveness from our Lord and Savior. And there's another one where he interviewed with Frank Lutz on a stage before he was in office. And Frank Lutz said, have you ever asked God for forgiveness? And Trump said, no, I don't think about God that way, so, which is what literally no Christian ever says. Once again, I'm not trying to sit here and play holier than thou, but I am playing that clip. It is sad. Like, it's sad, especially if you like Trump. Like, it's sad to see somebody that you like just admit that they're not going to heaven because they just know they don't believe and they're probably not doing good things. With that being said, nobody's a perfect person, but that clip is why, in some ways, even when Trump really annoys me, which he does very often now, I like the fact that he does every now and then, or, at sometimes he was like extraordinarily honest. I think this term he's been way cornier, but he does drop these gems for his supporters. Like, most people that don't believe in God and aren't Christian and I don't think they're going to heaven, they're not going to tell you that. They're going to lie and say, "Oh, I'm what you are, patriots. I'm just like you. I'm going to heaven, of course. I believe in the Lord and Savior." Trump, he has these moments where I feel like he's almost trying to wake up his fan base. He's like, "I'm not going to heaven. I'm not heaven bound. I don't think there's anything I could do at this point to save me." Like, that's a rare moment of humility and honesty that most politicians just don't have, which is why so many people love Trump, because he used to be that way all the time. Now there's just like little times where he'll drop gems like that. And he does that when he's on stage with Miriam Adelson. And I can't tell if Trump is just so old, he's just rambling, or maybe he's proud of his betrayal in some ways, or maybe he's trying to scream for help and like let his audience know that he's basically like not in control. But it's the same when he's on stage with Miriam Adelson. Like, not a single person in a mainstream interview, has asked him about his biggest donor, whose family has given Trump over $500 million. But Trump on stage will let people know, like, she's given me $250 million. I think, I've asked her in private, like, do you care about America or Israel more? And she won't answer. And I think that means she likes Israel more. Like, Trump's trying to let people know, like, I'm taking hundreds of millions of dollars from these donors, and all they do is ask me about Israel. Like, he literally said that on stage when he talked about Sheldon, who's now deceased, RIP. But Trump was like, he used to come in the White House more than anybody, and he'd be very aggressive, and he was always asking for things for Israel. And Trump would say, in fact, that's really all he ever wanted. So Trump's on stage saying things that you're really not supposed to say in this country, which is, he has these Jewish billionaire donors giving him hundreds of millions of dollars. They're very aggressive towards him, and they always ask him to do things for Israel. If I were to say that normally, that's anti-Semitism. I just broke the IHRA anti-Semitism laws. I'd probably get banned from Australia, possibly arrested in Germany and Argentina. Like, that's almost a criminal offense in many cases in the world, just being honest about who's controlling Trump. But he sits on stage, breaks his own IHRA international anti-Semitism rules, and he says, he's like, yeah, I've asked her, do you care about America or Israel? And she told me Israel. Like, he's so, at some points, not always, but at some points, he's so honest. And it's like this thing that he's like trying to wake his audience up. In that clip, he's like, I'm not going to heaven, And this clip too, I've saved it because I can't believe he said this. This is something that if you say this on your own, you might get fired from your job. If anybody in the NFL said this, they'd get suspended, and they'd have they'd have to donate to an organization, they'd have to apologize. Like in mainstream society, this what Trump says right here that I'm going to play this clip, this will get your life ruined. You will have 50 Jewish organizations harassing you for the rest of your life. Yet Trump just stands on stage and he says it proudly. I can't tell if he just is proud of it or if he's like crying for help, trying to like let his base like know how this country works. But here's the clip. Once again, if I worked for like a mainstream company and I said what Trump said right here, or I was an athlete that was like in the NFL, this is a fine, this is a suspension, this is like a life ruiner.
My father would tell me the most powerful lobby that there is in this country is the Jewish lobby. It's the Israeli lobby.
So that's what I think when I hear Trump drop that clip about him not getting into heaven. I'll play it again. Like he doesn't even have the capacity to lie to his audience anymore and be like, you know what? I'm a Christian. I believe just like you. I'm just like you. I'm going to get into heaven. Trump's like, I'm not going to heaven. I'm not heaven bound. There's nothing I could do at this point, I don't think, to get into heaven.
Go ahead. You had talked a couple weeks ago, you were doing an interview, and you talked about how you hope to end the war in Ukraine because it might help you get into heaven. How does this help? Does this help?
I mean, I'm being a little cute. I don't think there's anything going to get me in heaven. Okay, I really don't. I think I'm not maybe heaven bound. I may be in heaven right now as we fly in Air Force One. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make heaven, but
It's pretty sad. I mean, he's 80 years old, right? He's lived an incredible life. He's been rich and famous like his whole life. He's probably got all the women in the world, not literally all the women in the world, but it's like, yet his voice is kind of cracking and he sounds it's a moment of like humility and like honest weakness where he seemed a little nervous, where it's like, even though I've had all this wealth, even though I've done all these great things, I'm the president of the United States. He's like, I'm not, I don't think I could get into heaven. Why do you think he thinks that? Most Christians, even if they have a horrible past, they believe that their belief in the Lord and Savior will save them. They're saved. But not Trump. He doesn't even want to be saved. He doesn't believe in it. He's just like, I'm done. I'm not going. I did too many bad things. It's like, all right, well, it's sad to hear that, especially if you're a fan. Doesn't that make you sad to see the guy you love just admit that he's not going to heaven if you're a Christian? With that being said, the reason I bring that up is I'm going to talk about the Epstein files in a second, but it relates to the halftime show and everything. And once again, I just think it's the most important point. I'm not demanding perfection. I'm not perfect. I'm not ever going to judge others in a way that I can't be judged. Like, I'm not seeking perfection. I'm not trying to point out people's flaws and mistakes, because we all make them. And I think everyone should treat others the way you want to be treated. And I believe, especially for public figures, look at all the scandals, look at all the controversy, look at all the drama that goes on with like nearly everyone. When you don't treat others the way you want to be treated, and when you treat others in a way that you can't hold up to the scrutiny, it almost always backfires on you. And it's backfired on almost every public figure ever that was like putting on an act and acting like they were so perfect when they weren't. I'm not a perfect person. I make mistakes now. I've made mistakes then. I'm not seeking perfection. I'm just trying to be honest about the situation. I'm not angry or hateful or judgmental towards Kid Rock for making a song about hookers, meth, pornos, and gang violence. But it is just weird that Turning Point will host that and then he'll do that song first. I wouldn't do one of my older degenerate songs at a Turning Point Christian event, especially if the whole reason for the event was to counter signal the anti-Americanness, anti-conservativeness of the main show. Like, it doesn't, this is what happens when people don't actually believe anything. They have no conviction, they have no morals, they have no baseline. No one's even trying. It's like the left's just trying to hate the right's just trying to hate the left. And that's by design. It's like, if you're clouded by hate, if you're clouded by anger, and you have no conviction, if your conviction is just drinking beer, watching sports ball, and obsessing over Donald Trump, then who cares like what you think is going on? Because what you think is happening isn't actually happening. Someone said the Elijah and Sarah Stock thing is really unfortunate for everyone involved. It is really unfortunate and it's really sad and crazy, but I don't really want to weigh in on that right now, but I definitely paid attention to it. And crazy is definitely a good word for it. Maybe another day we could talk about it. So it's not me judging the music. It's just more like, how is that appropriate or even like entertaining for conservatives and Christians? And with that being said, with Trump, this is my whole point, and I'm trying to portray it in a way that makes sense to people, because at the end of the day, I'm always going to have an audience. I mean, maybe not always, but I have an audience, and my audience, for the most part, agrees with what I'm saying. But I'm very self aware that I don't need to just talk to people who agree with me if I want to be effective, right? There's ways to make money by talking to people who agree with you. There's ways to have fun with people who agree with you, and there's value in that for sure. And it's not like I'm going to seek validation from people who hate me my whole life, but this journey started for me. Definitely, I wanted to do something valuable and bigger than just, like a job that I didn't believe in. So I understand that really what I need to do is to get people who don't agree with me to agree with me more, because that will shift, the sands of time. I don't know that that's a little overdone, but that'll shift the public perception more than just people who agree. But with Trump, it's not about, I want you to hate Trump like a liberal. Like, that's how people perceive it, because they're so used to, if you're not this side, you're this side. But I want to really be clear about this, because this is the most respectful and precise way I could say it. Trump has mega donors who get more sway because they give him more. It's the same way, like if you gave me $2,000 to promote a product and somebody gave me $1 million to promote a product and I accepted both, I'd have to do more for the million than the 5,000 or the 2,000. It doesn't mean necessarily you're a bad person. It's just the reality of business. The more money someone gives you, the more you get. So when it comes to mega donors like Mellon, Musk, Adelson, and even when it comes to all the corporations that gave Trump $1 million, the reason that it seems like Trump's administration isn't always working for you is because they're not, because they've taken so much money from other people. They have to do that, not the grandma who bought a Trump plushie and $50. Like, Trump, I'm sure, wants the grandma to like him, but he's achieving the goals of the people who gave him a lot of money. So with that being said, the only thing you have as a Trump supporter, because you don't have Miriam Adelson money, you don't have, Palantir money, you're not one of these people that Trump took so much money for, he has to work for harder. All you have is your support and your voice. So when things are going in a direction, or at least are coming out in a way that you don't actually believe, it's not a bad thing. It's not anti-Trump and it's not disloyal. Your loyalty should not be to a guy who took billions of dollars in donor money in order to do things for them. Your loyalty should be to God, to your country, to your family, and if you're older, to your, and you have a family that's younger, to your younger family that's going to have to live in this world. You should have honor to want to provide to them a world that's better than you left it. And my childhood, I think, was amazing. My parents' childhood was amazing. This is the first time in American history where everybody's kind of acknowledging that the childhoods that the kids have now are not as good as the ones that we had. And think about that. I mean, everybody hates on the younger generation because they're weird. No offense to the younger generation, but to us elders, you look super weird. But it's like, imagine growing up. Like, my parents never told me like, "Oh, your childhood sucks." They were like providing, even though we didn't have the most at certain points, it was a good childhood. I played in the park with my friends. Like, now everybody, all the elders are telling kids that are like 18 and under or 25 and under, whoever, your life sucks compared to mine. Like, for the first time ever, we're handing over a world that's worse, and everybody knows it. And all these kids are probably liberal and melancholy and depressed and like messed up because everybody's telling them their life sucks. Their childhood was like completely blindsided by COVID regulations. They're like, in a world where it's all technology everywhere. The entire demographics of this country are changing, and everybody that's over 30 is like, yep, we had the last good childhood year, sucks. So, your loyalty as an older conservative should be to the youth that has to live in this country. And if you're just worshiping Trump and your 401k and you're just selfish, this is not good. Like, people need to call out Trump, not from a left-wing perspective, not from a I hate him perspective, not from an emotional perspective, from a moral and logical perspective, because that's your job. There's two things. I'm going to read the super chat in a second, True Seeker. Just give me a second. I don't want to stop. You can decide to vote or not vote. Whether you vote or not vote, it doesn't matter as much as people think it does, but also it's not the end destination. It's not like I voted, ignore it for 4 years and just worship this guy. Whether you vote or not, then I had the decision to vote or not vote for Trump. First of all, I lived in California. My vote didn't matter. I knew my vote didn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter whether I voted locally or not. That's a little different, but it's like, it doesn't matter that much. Even if you're in a swing state, like, you could help him get elected, you could not. But after he wins the election, that's when the real fun starts, because that's when all of the billionaires and tech companies buy Biden or Trump. They all buy him after the election during the inauguration, and Trump took hundreds of millions of dollars. So that's who he's working for. He doesn't respect us the same way the Super Bowl doesn't respect us. Rock Nation or whoever's choosing Bad Bunny doesn't respect a lot of America, because they don't have to. They don't take you seriously, nor should they. And this is the point that I really want to drive home, and it should be inspirational. You don't get things because you want them. You need to deserve them. And I'm not talking about getting angry or getting emotional or following the great vaccine Pied Piper Trump to the Capitol for the Fed setup. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about being the change you want to see in the world. If you're a man, have conviction, live a life of purpose. Turn down advertisements that you don't believe in. If you can't do any of those things, and you do things that you don't believe in, but you don't do anything to the side, and you don't work towards something that you think is beneficial to humanity, why should anyone else? If you can't even do it, like, most people will be like, I work a job I hate, I do something I don't believe in, and then to the side I watch football and worship Donald Trump, but I'm mad at Bill Gates. It's like, you're not that different. Like, obviously you're not as bad as Bill Gates probably, but like, psychologically, you're not being the change you want to see in the world. We don't all have to like revolutionize the whole world instantaneously, but we could be better than the average person and do a little bit more, at least in the side of our passion. Every man should really have a journey, even on a small scale. If everyone did it, the country would change. If 50% or 30% or 60% or 20% of Trump's base actually believed in what they say they believe and were willing to call out Trump the same way they call out Lindsey Graham, the same way they call out Joe Biden on the same issues when Trump does it, then we'd actually have change in this country. But no one respects us. The elites don't respect us. The bankers don't respect us. The billionaires don't respect us. The Super Bowl doesn't respect us. The Democrats certainly don't respect us. The governors don't respect us. And to be honest, Trump and the GOP doesn't respect us. They pick a bunch of Fox News hosts to just sit there and work for people who hate Jesus Christ. And you guys eat it up. Like, oh, wow, Pete Hegseth. Wow, he's throwing a football. It's like, it's such slop. Super chat. Hey, Anomaly, I have a random question, but I was watching the G. Edward Griffin interview. I was wondering if I could share any specific trace mineral products that you're taking, please. I haven't taken them in a while, but to be honest, I just went on Amazon and found trace minerals. Like, when I talked to G. Edward about it, he said he thought they were good, and he's like 90 something years old. So I just look for high rated stuff on Amazon. I don't know if that's like the right advice, but yeah, I'm sure, I think with the internet, just do your due diligence. If you want to take trace minerals, try to find like a reputable product that has good testing or something. But I'm not like an expert on where to get the best stuff. Someone said America needs help. Yes, but it has to come from us. When we have half the population is left wing, half the population is Republican, but they're following leaders that are misleading them, we don't actually deserve anything, and that's why I'm at peace with everything. Because even in your life, right, career wise, like whatever you did, we all get what we deserve. Sometimes what we want is not what we deserve, but God puts us exactly where we're supposed to be. And there's people who have gone from 700 pounds to 200 pounds. There's people who have gone from rags to riches. There's people who, had a fall away from the Lord, had a fall away from like just morality and just doing things that were hurting them. But then they turned it around. Some people turn it around in their 30s. Some people turn it around in their 40s, 50s. 60s. I have family members who, started working out and just like their whole life changed recently. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's amazing. So it's like at the end of the day, the only thing we all can do is just live in the present moment and understand that, either at any point in your life, you make it happen or you don't. And it's not, you don't want to live too far in the future and you don't want to live too far in the past. You don't want to think about what if, what that, because then it stops you from doing now. And that's the country. It's like there's so many people that want so much. The left wants all these things, but they don't even pay attention to how to get there. So they want this, they want that, they want this. In their head, it's a utopia, but in reality, it ends up looking like San Francisco because they're wanting and they're not logically thinking about how to get there. And they're doing all the wrong steps that are actually immoral and counterproductive. And then on the right, I really think at this present moment, like people don't actually have that much morals and convictions. If you really knew, and I'm not trying to like badmouth it or anything, I guess I am, but in the most respectful way possible. If you kind of knew how Washington worked and the Republican Party worked and the Trump orbit worked, it's all about ladder climbing. It's all about money. It's all about power. It's all about, figuring out who can get you opportunities. And it's all about pleasing them. There's not a lot of conviction. There's not that many people that are so, tied to their more like it's basically like Hollywood for Republicans at this point. Like, can you wine and dine at Mar-a-Lago? Are you willing to shut up about Israel? Then you could work at Fox News. Are you willing to say something so basic and simplistic that Republicans agree with you, but you're not breaking the fourth wall to wake them up to what actually will save them? And that's like the entire Trump entertainment complex at this point. So when will people, and to be fair, I do think this year, just reading comment sections and stuff, people are more awake than ever. There's more people figuring this out. If you look at polling, and I know that not all polling's real, but I do think that on average, there are certain trends. I don't know how they're polling, and obviously I don't believe that the percentages are precise, but from what I've been seeing, and not just in certain polls that are, I would say, more favorable to Trump than liberal polls, but also just in reality in my own personal sphere, like Trump went from being extraordinarily popular among younger people under 30, under 40. Like Trump won the election because under 40 liked Trump, including like a bunch of younger men. His popularity has completely faded. Someone said, Max Meek said, I get no respect, no respect. Thanks for this $2 super chat. Boomers over 50, not all, but that's Trump's base. Like Trump could literally shoot somebody in the street. Trump could poop in his hand and throw it in someone's face. There's almost nothing Trump could do to lose a majority of his over 60 and 50 crowd. And I'm not saying it's everybody, but that's like the core crowd that doesn't care what he does and has no conviction to anything, which is really sad, because they should be wise enough to help the youth out a little bit. But you go to the under 40 crowd, they loved Donald Trump before the election. Now they don't like Donald Trump. And as somebody under 40 who has gone from, I probably like Trump a lot less than other people even before then, but now I like him even less than I did before, I can tell you why. He's kind of a clown. He's not really doing that much for our country. He's sold out extraordinarily to donors. He rigs every part of America for Israel. Nearly everything he does is for Israel. He's like, I'm going to defund Harvard from the Department of War. That's for Israel. It's not for America. There's a bunch of liberal colleges. Most colleges are liberal at this point. He's defunding Harvard because of anti-Semitism. What is anti-Semitism? Criticizing Jeffrey Epstein, criticizing Trump's donors, criticizing the foreign nation that's killing tens of thousands of civilians, but calls it blood libel when you say that they're doing it. That's what anti-Semitism means to these people, because the official definition is basically don't talk about Epstein's network. Don't talk about what they're doing. Don't talk about what they're saying. They might as well be called the Epstein laws at this point. But it's like, oh, Trump's going to defund Harvard. I don't like Harvard, but he's not doing it for America. He's not even doing everything he does is for Israel. The tariffs he's doing, these are war tariffs. He's trying to put sanctions on countries above the sanctions and use our trade policy to make them bow down to the Zionist world order. He's doing it to every country who doesn't play ball with them. He rigged immigration for Israel. Now, if you're on a visa in America, you don't have the First Amendment like you used to for 50, 60 years. A comedian could come to America and talk about whatever they wanted, right? It's like, yeah, freedom of speech. You can't commit a crime, but speech is not a crime in America. But now that could get you deported because Trump is saying he's scanning social media, and the Department of Homeland Security is policing people in America who want to be citizens, who have visas, who are working in America, et cetera, temporarily or permanently. And now he can deport them for violating the First Amendment because they said something about Jewish people or Israel that he doesn't like. I'm just letting people know this is why people under 40 don't like Donald Trump, because they're more aware of who he really is than the average 60-year-old. The average 60-year-old is listening to Zionist programming on Fox News and Newsmax, so they don't know any of this stuff. And a lot of them have been programmed to just completely ignore all this stuff because some fake pastor who's probably paid off has told them for 50 years that they need to worship a foreign nation who doesn't even believe or like Jesus in order for Jesus to like you. It doesn't even make any sense at all, and it's not biblical. It's not like, oh, you have to like a group of people who spits on Christians or else you can't get into heaven. It's like, then they are your God. If that's your religion, then a group of people that hates Christ is your God. Your God is not a person above them who's willing to call out the good and the bad. The Lord of the Bible calls out the good and the bad of all ethnic groups and all religions, but especially, that one he mentions very clearly. There are some that I believe are good. And of others, he says they are of the synagogue of Satan. So you think you need to be more critical of your own religion and your own country than you are of a foreign nation who spits on Christians? You have to worship those people like they're a god? It doesn't even make any sense. I'm not calling on people to hate anybody, but it's like you got American Christians who are willing to call out their own people, their own religion, which they should. But then there's this country that bombs civilians, this country that just gets unlimited foreign aid, apparently, that gets speech laws in America that say that you can't say that they killed Jesus. Why would Jesus Christ want a speech law in the United States of America to prevent Christians from saying biblical discussion about who killed Jesus Christ? Like, why would a Christian conservative want that? But that's the over 60 crowd. That's why I'm saying all this stuff. It's like the under 40 crowd went from loving Donald Trump to being unfavorable to Donald Trump because our generation is a little more aware of certain topics because it's almost impossible to ignore at this point. If they never passed speech laws in America, maybe I would have never figured this out. I mean, probably the war that broke out would have brought more attention to it. But the whole reason I got called an anti-Semite, the whole reason that I was under attack basically before most people, maybe not most, but some, was because I just noticed Trump and DeSantis were passing speech laws. And I'm trying to not be repetitive on this topic to annoy people, but I just want to be very clear and I want it documented and I want people to know like that was basically in the mainstream Republican networks. I'm not saying my career's been fine, but in those networks, that was basically a career ender. When I noticed Trump and DeSantis and Republicans were passing a definition of anti-Semitism against the First Amendment into America, into schools and into Florida, and I read the definition, and half of them were like, you can't say they control media. You can't say they have dual loyalty to other nations. You can't say they killed Jesus. You can't say this. You can't criticize Israel this way or this way. We'll tell you how to criticize Israel. I was like, these speech laws are anti-conservative, anti-American, anti-Christian, and anti-First Amendment. As soon as I said that, guys, it's game over. Everybody shunned me. Everybody blacklisted me. And then Republican Zionist networks that are run by people that I can't say who they are because then it's anti-Semitism, they started writing articles about me, calling me an anti-Semite, trying to honestly ruin my life, ruin my career. In their own words, when they speak publicly, we want this to haunt you for the rest of your life so you can't get a wife, so you can't do this, so you could never have a job. They've been trying to ruin my life for 6 years now. I don't care because who cares what they say? I know the cost of what I'm saying. I know the consequences, but I also know the consequences of lying. I know the consequences of selling out. I know the consequences of being Donald Trump, having everything in this world, but him on stage saying, or in an airplane saying he's not going to heaven. So it's like there's consequences to everything, to telling the truth, to lying, to this, to that, right? We're all have a decision to make, but I'm just like, that's the reality of Republican politics. So for 6 years, people don't know this because a lot of it's like covertly being done, but they're like, I don't get why you're saying this. I don't get why you're saying this. I'm trying to tell you why. I figured out the Republicans were working for donors and selling out our US First Amendment Constitution to stop people from talking about Israel and one ethnicity and one religion. And as soon as I chose the truth, the Constitution, and America over Israel, they not only blacklisted me, but they started running smear campaigns to try to literally ruin my life for the rest of my life. How am I supposed to ignore that? Oh yeah, let me just go back to like retarded talking points at Fox News. Oh, look at the left. Meanwhile, it's all those people that are pushing this agenda. It's the fake opposition. The left are the obvious Bolsheviks. The right are the covert Bolsheviks. They're the Bolsheviks who are using the Republican Party. They're using the conservative movement, and they're using the Christian movement. And if you ever figured out what they were really doing and how they were using it and just publicly spoke about it like Tucker Carlson or anything, then you'll see what they really think. They don't care about all the things that you care about. They just want to exploit and use you. If you ever pointed out accurately what they're doing, you're going to get called an anti-Semite, and they'd probably hop to another political movement and try to use that political movement. They just like the Christian conservative movement because they have so much traction in it so far. And to the point of what I'm saying, there's so many mega donors and so many billionaires and so many elites and so many Zionists that have hopped from left wing to right wing over the last couple of years. They were liberals for their entire life. They were fine with mass migration. They were fine with open borders. They were fine with vaccine mandates. They were fine with Joe Biden. They were fine with Kamala Harris. Like, they were literally fine with all of these people. And then the second that they realized, oh, wait, Republicans support Israel more than Democrats. Oh, wait, I'm a Republican now because, yeah, like none of the things that you care about actually they care about. It's Israel. So I'm not going to name them now, but I could think of at least 5 to 10 prominent Jewish Zionists and also other Zionists that have gone from being open border, Joe Biden, mass migration Democrats to pro-Israel Republicans on that topic solely. They're like, oh, Trump will take hundreds of millions of dollars from Miriam Adelson. Oh, wait, Trump is a total puppet. Oh, man, he's even better for Israel than the Democrats. Let's be a Republican now. Someone said, we'll speak truthfully till dead at all costs, said Max Meeks. God bless you, brother. I mean, what else are you going to do? Liar? We can't lie. We got to be honest. Someone said, I don't think there's a lot of people ready to admit that most people are blank tards and will take everything at face value and question no further. Yeah, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of, there's a lot of laziness. There's a lot of generational brainwashing. And then there's a lot of the youth who could figure stuff out. But I think in order to balance not losing yourself over this, you have to find like the yin and the yang and the blessings in disguise, because at the end of the day, if everyone thought the exact same thing, it wouldn't make you unique and there would be no purpose for you to believe in it. So although I want more people to figure stuff out, that's how I've kind of come at peace with this stuff, because I think in the past I was trying to rush everything, and you have to understand things don't happen when you want them to happen. They happen with God's timing. And it's sometimes when you try to rush things or like over push them, you end up hurting yourself, and also not being productive with it. Like sometimes it's a double whammy. It's like you're bugging out, you're hurting yourself, you're hurting your health, but then also you're not achieving it. Like we all have to be patient to some extent. So you got to do what you can, but then be patient, because sometimes it takes people a little bit longer. But I think the reason that we've made so much progress in this country is because so many people do care. And I want to say something about the United States of America. And I've thought about this for a while, because you see these athletes overseas where they're like trashing America and most Americans hate it. As somebody that criticizes America because I live here and it's basically, I do news analysis and journalism, I would never do that as an athlete, because if I'm ever in another country, right, representing America in any way, let's just say I'm in the Winter Olympics, here's what I would say. I'm grateful to be an American. I'm proud to be an American. I love my country. And my favorite thing about my country is I have the First Amendment. I'm so grateful I have the ability to sit on the stage and say whatever I want. I could criticize my government. I could compliment my government. And even though I disagree with certain things, I might disagree with foreign policy, I might disagree with Trump and Biden and a lot of our government, I am grateful that I'm able to speak about it. And I understand that this right is not guaranteed. It's not in Europe. You don't find it in Australia. I could go to jail in Europe for saying what I say here. So I think the appropriate way to be critical of your government when you're representing America in sports overseas is to first say, I love my nation. I'm proud to be an American. And even myself, I'm so grateful that I'm able to say this. Even though I'm really disgusted by a lot of things the government does, I acknowledge that I wouldn't want to live in Australia. I wouldn't want to be a Canadian. I wouldn't want to be British. Even though the stakes are high for speaking the truth in America, they can't imprison you for words. Yet they could try. They're trying, but that's what makes America great. The First Amendment, obviously the Second Amendment. There's quite a few amendments that are fantastic, but the First Amendment's my favorite, and I'm so grateful to be an American. So then I can talk my shit when I want to. Someone said Duncan Trussell subvertedly promoted me yesterday. I don't know. I don't know what you mean by subvertedly promoted you, but I don't know. That's funny. With that being said, I think a lot of people are rising to the occasion in America because we have the First Amendment. I think a lot of people in other countries are way more cowardly and way more hesitant to speak the truth because they know they could go to jail. And in America, even though there's a lot of cringe, there's a lot of grifters and weirdos and stuff like doing social media, there's been a lot of progress. Like, there's a lot of people that are willing to risk it all and just say what they believe. And I think when you have so many people that are willing to stand up and say something honest against the establishment, that's when, they have a harder time persecuting people. So there has been a lot of progress. There are a lot of people waking up. There are people who know how consequential stuff is, and that makes everyone safer. When someone just sticks their neck out and says something, it's a lot less safe when you have millions of people that are willing to speak the truth and counter the establishment. Have I discussed all this with Roseanne Barr? I haven't talked to her in a long time now. I don't know which part you're talking about. I've had whatever podcast I've done with her public, and as far as what we've talked about privately, I don't know that what I just said has ever come up like in the last minute or two. But as far as years ago on her podcast, I mean, I don't know which part you're talking about, but if you're talking about like 5 minutes, 10 minutes ago, I did bring up the fact that they were smearing me as an anti-Semite basically for being against the speech laws. So that was brought up on her podcast at one point. You could probably find the clip. I also told her that I believe that QAnon was like a Operation Trust, like fake opposition movement. So we had a pretty real discussion. Where's my red hat? I've never worn a MAGA hat, but these are my hats at dreamrare.com. Even when I was giving favorable press to Trump, I never wanted to just be like a Trump supporter because I want to be able to say what I believe. Like I can't be like a fan if my job is gonna be video journalism and news analysis. Like my support of Trump has to be from a moral or logical place. I can't just like ride with the guy. So I've really never worn a MAGA hat, even when I did like Trump a lot more than I do now. But I don't judge other people. Like if you want to wear it, if you don't, I don't care. But I do think Trump is being so corny now that he's almost making it less cool than it's ever been, unfortunately. Someone said, is Roseanne pro-Zionist? I believe she's a super Zionist. I mean, we haven't had since like after the war broke out, I would say we haven't spoken. I'm a very loyal person, especially with Roseanne and her family. Like they've been really cool to me for a long time now. So I believe we have big disagreements there, but I will never be the one to be disrespectful over a foreign policy disagreement. So they've been cool to me. I've been cool to them. There's people like Laura Loomer's the same way. Like, I don't think me and Laura Loomer agree on a lot of things when it comes to foreign policy, but I met her like 10 years ago, 8 years ago, and she was very nice in person, respectful. I was respectful to her. I just don't. It's not that if I know somebody, it's not like I'm going to agree with what they say just because I'm friends with them. Like I would never lie or be fake, but I don't like to make things personal, especially with people that have been cool to me. So as long as people honor that with me, then I honor that with them. I could sit and say, oh, I disagree with this, this, and this, but I'm never going to make it personal over a political or a foreign disagreement with that being said, there's been people, not those two, to be honest. They've always been cool to me, but there's been other people who've kind of violated that. Like I had a buddy who, I thought we agreed on a lot, but I don't really care. And he spiraled at me because during the Trump and DeSantis primary, I just wasn't like Trumped out. I was like, they're both puppets, but I think Trump's overrated. I don't even like, I know DeSantis is a sellout, but so is Trump. Like that was my whole point during the primary. And I had a friend spiral at me over it and then like apologize. And and he's a guy, it's too feminine to me. It's like, dude, I'm in my 30s, dude. I like to play sports. I want a wife eventually and kids. I don't want to beef with someone in another state on Twitter. Like everybody does that. Do you notice how I barely ever do that? What's the point? If you disagree with me, that's fine. But if you're gonna like spiral and make personal attacks against me because I think Trump and DeSantis are both sellouts and you're obsessed with Trump, then I guess you were never really my friend in the first place, because it's not that big of a deal to me. So, I am very old school when it comes to appreciating people who've done things for me and just been nice to me and were there for me when it didn't matter. And with that being said, I think there's a way to balance that without being a phony. Like there's some people you watch and then they'll change they'll change their entire perspective and opinion and basically suppress themselves in order to just save face in social circles. That's not what I'm doing. I've never once suppressed what I really think. But if I say what I think and someone that I've been friends with or am friends with says what they think and it's completely different, to me, that's not a basis to not be friends with somebody. But if they violate that and say, Anomaly's an anti-Semite because he believes this, or Anomaly's a horrible person because he disagrees with me on Israel, well, now they've made it personal before I did. And, it's unfortunate. It more saddens me than it angers me because it's like, I don't I don't value foreign policy disagreements that highly when it comes to friendships. Like this is the tough part about politics is like everyone's not supposed to agree on everything. I think it's okay this is my opinion. Like with Laura and Roseanne, they're both Jewish, right? It's okay to like Israel. It's okay to think differently than an American who doesn't have like ethnic or religious loyalty to Israel. It makes sense. But I think what doesn't like the constant personal attacks that everyone's doing, to me, that's like what doesn't make sense is like people become very emotional and it becomes like everyone's just throwing arrows all over the place where I just try to speak clearly about what I'm saying. When it comes to Bad Bunny's performance, if I spoke Spanish, I think that would have went really hard. But I don't speak Spanish and I only speak a little Spanish and I only know one Bad Bunny song. So I can only like his performance so much because I'm not Spanish, but if I were Spanish in America and, like I come from like a very hardworking family and I speak fluent Spanish, I bet that Bad Bunny performance was incredible. But for the average white American or conservative American that no speak Espanol, it's like, how much can you really appreciate it? That's just the reality. Like, I don't, my opinions, my analysis, nothing comes from hate. I don't hate any group of people. I don't hate any country. I just want to be able to speak freely. I want to be able to say what I really think. I want to be able to say the truth. And if at any point that bothers somebody around me to a point where they have to personally attack me over it, then that's for them. I'm still not going to engage because there's enough of that. I have a lot of friends that don't agree with me on the Israel thing. And it's like, I think they're acting in a way that it doesn't make sense to me. And in some cases, I think is irrational. And, that's for them to decide, but I'm not ever gonna like, I appreciate real life. I appreciate not Twitter takes. Like what you say on your podcast, what you're saying on Twitter, it's not that it's not real, but it's like, can we be real people again? Can you have friends that you completely disagree with? Like, I think a lot of people, this is like, to expand on just politics, I think streaming culture, like there's streamers now like Clavicular, Sneeko, Neon, I Show Speed, Kai Sanat, like these are streamers that the youth is listening to way more than like my generation or older. And, you know, not to blame any of them because I'm not a hater, but it's like I think the lines are being blurred between digital and reality. Like, if you're on Twitter 10 hours a day, that is your world. If you're streaming yourself doing stuff all the time, your world is streaming. You're incentivized to do drama. You're incentivized. Like, if you beef with somebody on camera and then you make up with them 3 days later, that entire circle back to where you were just might net you $100,000. Like, there's huge incentive to constantly create drama. But also, I would say that, when it comes to politics, I don't know what it is, but people just love to beef, I guess, and like have these like public fallouts that are like just for the whole world to see. For me, I don't understand it. I don't know. It's just like I've kind of kept my distance from most people, because if I see anybody that's constantly having like public blowouts with other ex-friends or whatever, to me, what's going to stop that from being you? You know what I'm saying? So anybody that I've ever seen do that, it's not that I hate them for it, but I just distance myself, because it's like I don't that's not how I want to operate, right? There's been people behind the scenes that that I've had fallouts with business-wise, that I've had fallouts with personally, but you probably have never even seen it, because I'm just old school like that. Like, why would I make if I really was at any point friends or business partners with anybody, why would I make it into this whole dramatic thing for the public? What's the point of that? Like, why would I do that? How is that good for them? How is that good for me? How is that necessary? I've talked about probably the Tim Pool thing more than anything, but it's just like that was something that happened, I would say. And I'm not a fan of him, but at the same time, it is what it is. Um, can we talk about how they greeted Israel at the Olympics? LOL. I saw the headline, but I never saw the video. I want to give an opinion about the Olympics real quick, if you don't mind. I think it's insane that they banned Russia and Belarus for the Ukraine invasion. It just ruined. I don't even want to watch the Olympics anymore. Russia is very good at Winter Olympics, especially hockey, and now it doesn't matter because it's not a real Olympics. Everyone should be allowed in the Olympics. Israel, India. I don't know why I brought up India, but it's like, Russia, Belarus, like it's not time to push our foreign policy in the Olympics. There's wars breaking out and there's people doing sick stuff in multiple countries, but the international community is acting like Russia and Belarus are too evil to be in the Olympics, and it just ruins the Olympics for me. Really, what they're doing to Russia and Belarus, in my opinion, is they're trying to culturally genocide their people, erase them in the public, in order to eventually erase them in reality. And if you look at all of the countries that our alliance doesn't like, it's all the countries that are not willing to replace themselves with foreigners. Besides Poland, who has a horrible leader in Tusk, that guy is garbage. But and Hungary, our entire alliance from Australia to Canada to most of Western Europe, they're all replacing their culture, their heritage, their ethnicity with foreigners. And in 100 years, England is going to be like Latin. You just remember, oh, Latin, but nobody speaks Latin anymore. Not the language of English, but the English people who are, I'm not even British, but the British people are an incredible group. They've done so many incredible things, and they're going to be wiped off the map. You know who's not going to be wiped off the map? China, who the left and right wing in America are trying to fight. Russia, who the left and right wing are trying to fight, and Belarus, and countries like that are right wing, understand their heritage, and are not willing to let Western NGOs just flood them with migrants. So I believe that that's what that's about. They're trying to humiliate Belarus and Russia. They're banning them. They're trying to culturally genocide them, get people used to them not existing, and then they're going to try to make them not exist in reality. Like, it's really sick stuff. I don't have to be a fan of Russia or Belarus to speak the truth about this. So, this is the great thing about America is I do have the First Amendment. I do love America, but I do believe our leaders are being puppeted by people who are trying to break down Europe and America, and they're very successful at it. So any country that doesn't let them break them down will be a target on the international stage, in the Olympics, in pop culture. Like, what's their crime? They didn't let the puppet plant Zelensky do all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's really sick stuff. And everybody knows, like, there was a coup in Ukraine. Western leaders were planting leaders. Epstein was even talking about it. Epstein has the same foreign policy as our leaders. Epstein is telling Peter Thiel that, he represents the Rothschilds. Epstein is telling Ehud Barak about Palantir for the first time. We have Epstein's foreign policy and Epstein leaders and Epstein media and an Epstein everything. It's like the United States of Epstein over here. So it's like any country that doesn't bow down to Epstein's foreign policy needs to be erased from the Olympics. They're trying to culturally genocide Russia and Belarus so they can literally do it. And they're doing it to Europe and America slowly. And it's just the reality. Like, I'm not talking about Latinos. I'm talking about like Latin. Why is no one speaking Latin anymore? It's a dead language. What happened to it? I don't know. It got erased at some point. That's going to happen to Britain. Probably the British people will go faster than any other country. And they don't have the freedom of speech to talk about it. And their leaders, like, think about how crazy it is. If you live in Great Britain, say you're British, right? You're white, you're British. Your entire demographics are being replaced where your ethnic group probably won't even exist anymore. It'll be like a footnote in a history book in 100 years. Yet your leaders are telling you that you can't say that. Your leaders are telling you that you can't have a problem with mass migration. They can support mass migration, but you can't have a problem with it. How does that make sense? If you can support ICE, you can hate ICE. If you can like mass migration, you could not like mass migration. There deserves to be a discussion about everything. But yet, the British people are being told that this is a one-sided conversation. We're going to flood your country, but you can't oppose it. How is that true to anything? If you want this, how I have to want it? That's not how anything works. I could like liberal cities. I could like conservative cities. I could like Texas. I could like California. You can't tell me that I have to like San Francisco and the way it's governed, but I can't disagree with it. But that's England. How come our leaders aren't saving England? How come our leaders aren't saving France? Because it's not about saving. Our leaders are fake. The right wing in the Western world are all under the thumb of other people. That's the big story. Identifying the left, it doesn't matter. It's like if you're playing a pinball. This is the perfect analogy. I don't know why I'm using pinball, but I've used other analogies now. I just thought of this one. Say you're playing pinball against somebody else. You have two different machines, and he's the left wing and you're the right wing, right? And he keeps beating you over and over and over. And you can't beat him. And you're getting high scores, but you can't beat him. And someone says to me, Anomaly, you have to cheer for this team, but you have to hate that team because that's the left and they're beating him every time. And I'm trying to explain to you, but there's somebody under the machine that's rigging the machine that is making it impossible. And it's someone pretending to be on our team. It's his partner. He's under the machine changing the scores. So no matter how high of a score he gets, he's never going to beat the left wing. And you go to me, shut up, libtard. You're wrong. It's that guy. We got to beat that guy. You're not getting the point. The guy under the machine rigging the machine is a bigger deal than your opponent because your opponent is only face value. Your opponent, it's obvious that they're trying to beat you. But the reason you can't win isn't because of your opponent. It's because your team is rigging it for you. That's Trump. That's the Republican Party. That's every right-wing leader for the most part in the Western world. They're all fake opposition. They're all working for the banking families. They're all working for people that don't like you. They don't like you ethnically. They don't like you religiously. They don't like you spiritually. They just don't like you. So the reason that your world is starting to crumble in a way that seems like somebody running it doesn't like you is because it's true. They don't. But it's not the people that you think that are running it, because those people, they're only allowed to be there because they're like a caricature of what you wanted. They're like a Hulk Hogan. They're like a WWE actor that just is really good at tricking working class people into thinking that he's one of you, because the more that you buy into it, the more they could sell it. They can't sell it if everyone doesn't buy into it. And this is the thing with elections. Like, no one's a threat to them. The left is mad at Trump. They're doing this and that. They don't care. They don't care if Kamala Harris wins because they control her too. They don't care if Joe Biden wins. They want Trump to run for a third term because he's so useful for the elites. They're never going to care until you figure out the game they're playing. So it's like left wingers and right wingers, they think they're like achieving some amazing thing, like hating Kid Rock versus Bad Bunny or Bad Bunny. Kid Rock and Bad Bunny is the perfect analogy. It's like stupid theater to fight over because it's completely inconsequential, and it's the same thing. It's like it's just a minstrel show for the cattle. Someone said the God is great hat is the worst quality hat I've ever received. Definitely disappointed. It came in flat and the brim looks ridiculous. Love you, but this hat, man. Sorry you don't like it, bro. I don't know. You could have a refund if you want. Sorry you feel that way. Let me know. I'll give you a free product or something. But I think the new hats, they just have like a smaller brim. So I don't know. They're not as big as the other ones. Some people like the smaller hats better, but I think if you curve it, like you could just curve it over time and turn it into like a golf hat. But if you want to just say you don't like how flat it is, then you could just not try to curve it. But it's on you, bro. Someone said you don't like our Bad Bunny poison, have our kid poison instead. Pretty much. Let's see. Someone said fighting over a show everyone's still gonna watch is very elementary. Yeah. Someone said I love the hat. Well, thank you. Thank you, Al. Appreciate you. Let me see. Marla said she loves the hats too. It's a different style. I mean, I understand. Someone said your hat's fine. People are just being bullies. I mean, it was a super chat, so I'll read it. If he wants to complain about my hat, not get a refund, but give me $9, I mean, that's on him. But I've done different styles before. I've said it recently too, because I understand. Like sometimes I like big hats, sometimes I like small hats, depending what I'm doing. But I've had both. I've had this version similar before, where it was like a super small hat, and it was the black God bless hats. Then I had these big white ones that were like, super big around your head and like big, kind of like 50 hats where they have like the huge brim and it's like a big hat, but it looks good with the flat. I think these ones are smaller, like the old ones, but I just think you need to like curve the brim on these ones. So I get what he's saying. I just think like some of them look good flat. Other ones you have to like curve. I think these are more of like dad golf hats where they look better curved than they look flat. But like I understand what he's saying though, because when they come in, the old ones you would just wear and it looked fine flat. These ones look a little goofy flat. I think like even my own hats, I've been trying to like curve them and just get them to like have a little curve because I think they look better. So it is what it is. Someone said poor anomaly. I mean, it's don't say small hats. I'm just saying like, have you ever had like a 50 hat where it's like those big ones they sell at lids where it's like the around your head it's like that big and then it has like a huge beak but it looks cool. There's those type of hats, and then there's like smaller golf hats. Like golfers, you don't have a golfer or a tennis player wearing like a lids hat. They wear smaller hats. Like these are more like golf tennis hats. So I don't know. I get it because there's different times I like different hats. So I think he probably wanted a bigger hat, but some people like the smaller hats. So I'm not talking about like small hats, but I know you guys are laughing in the comment section about that. Is what it is. Someone said, you help me, I'll help you. I don't know what you're talking about, bro. Beautiful today. It is a nice day. Someone said the fake news had us make a second halftime show. Bad Bunny had a great performance, was pleasantly surprised. Yeah, I mean, I think it would have been cool with subtitles, to be honest, because even me, I was like, I get why they're not putting subtitles, but it would be kind of interesting to know what he's saying. Like, I don't know what he's saying the whole time. Someone said they're sabotaging you with small hats. It's a sign. I don't know. It's a weird play to just like do a $9 super chat over it. Cause if anyone ever hit it up and was like, I don't like the hat, I don't like the brim, I'd be like, all right, you could have a refund, bro. Like it's not that serious. So clearly giving me back $9 instead of just getting a refund. I don't understand why they would do that. Like clearly they don't like me that much, but it's okay. Someone said, I look terrible in any hat besides beanies and trucker ball caps. Yeah, I mean, everybody has their own style. Some people wear top hats. I think I would look retarded in a top hat, but I understand there's different. Like, I think I look good in a beanie, and it's been cold this winter, so I've been wearing the beanie a lot for like heat purposes, but in the summer I'll wear the other hats more. But someone said I would have liked subtitles. Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna read some more comments, but I've said enough. I think today I've made my point. I'm gonna probably try to stay for less than 10 minutes. I want to keep this under 2 hours. So someone said cheerful giving with thorns. I'm not sure what that means, but just return it, my man. Dude, I don't care. Like, obviously, I want money. Like, it's not like I want to be broke, but I'm not. I wouldn't even make him give the hat back. Like, if he ever emailed us, I would literally just give him the money back and he can keep the hat. Like, I'm not tripping over like $35. You know, it's not the biggest deal to me. I'd rather just I'd give someone $50. I don't even like. I don't care. I'm not. I'm not that frugal. I probably should be, but someone said I like your hat. Appreciate it. Like I said, I understand it. I've made hats for years now. So depending which company we go with or which style they're doing, some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller. So I think different people are going to like different ones. Makes sense. Am I dropping a new song soon? Yeah, I'm working on a song right now, actually. And I think it's pretty dope and pretty soulful. So we'll see how it does. And I'm grateful for my platform because, the music industry is not what I thought it was. So it's kind of nice to be able to just drop songs whenever I want and have no expectations. Like, I'm not, whether it gets a million streams, 100 streams, obviously 100, I'd be a little disappointed, but, it's like I could release songs when I'm inspired and I don't have to rely on whatever it does. Um, does Anomaly ever rock a man bun? I do tie my hair back, especially if I'm like playing a sport or something, so it's not my face. But yeah, I like my recent haircut, to be honest. Like, I went to a different lady, like, because the lady I was going to is busy, and she cut it like shorter, but I kind of like it like this because I don't know. But yeah, I tie it back all the time. Anomaly, you'd look awesome in a top hat. I don't think so. But top hats could be cool if you're like a top hat guy. Or like Neo, you like to wear a little hat like that. I just don't think it's my vibe. Uh, Someone said, "Love your songs, thank you." Didn't know you're a singer. Yeah, I do hip hop music, but I don't like over promote it. I don't know. I do pretty well considering I spend like no time talking about it, but I have a few videos on YouTube that almost have a million views. To be honest, I have more views on some of my music videos than I do on my news videos. News videos get more views over time, but like my music videos seem like they stand the test of time more. So love the trap collab. Someone said, thank you. Yeah, I love that song too. I got to play it live a lot. It's fun. Have I ever considered new era style snapback hat? I like the raised crown. God bless from Texas. I don't know about new era, but I try to look for made in America. So when it comes to hats, like it's hard to find made in the USA stuff. So we went with a different company this time that basically made all our hats from scratch because I wanted all USA materials. So I don't know about New Era or what materials they use, but I try to use all made in the USA. So it's the supply chain is crazy. Like when I first started selling hats, I was using a third party company that kind of ships them and they ran out. I was selling so many hats, everybody loved them, and they completely ran out. And then I had a guy reach out to me that watched my show, and he said, "Hey, dude, I do a bunch of business with like rappers and musicians, and I do merch full time, and I could get you those same hats that you ran out of." And he did, and I've been working with him ever since. So we've gone with different brands at certain times, but they've always been all made in the U.S. But the brands, like sometimes we'll do a brand, we'll sell like 1,000 hats, and then they don't sell them anymore. Like, I don't know what's going on with United States companies, but it's just hard to find USA materials. So this time we went with a new company that made them all from scratch, basically, because, we had to pay a lot too. I think they're dope. I just think for anybody who buys them, I just think you just have to like curve the brim over time. It's one of those that you have to like curve, like this looks dope curved, but if you leave it like flat, it's not going to look good. So with the smaller hats, I just think like you have to just slowly curve. I mean, you could leave it the way it is if you like the way it looks, but the way the brim is shaped on these new hats, I think even for myself, like I think over time, they're ones that you just want to like curve a little bit because if you leave them flat, they look a little goofier than the big flat beak ones that are meant to be flat. Like I don't think these ones are meant to be flat necessarily. So hand stitched by the Walton family. Well, these are not from Walmart, but I don't know. Someone said Anomaly's a humble hat salesman. It's hard to be a hat salesman in this world, but somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to sell hats. Mad Hatter. You could say that. These hats are comfy. I mean, it depends what you're into. Everybody has like a different everyone has like a different vibe, but these blue and black ones, like in the winter and like really cold weather, they definitely keep my head warm. And they're good for like big heads, in my opinion. Do I think Tim Pool had to wear a top hat? He would still wear his beanie under it. It's a good question, but I think Tim should try to wear a top hat. Like he reminds me of like one of those guys where like if he went into a hipster neighborhood wearing a top hat, like if you go to New York, you see like five guys that look like Tim Pool. They wear top hats and they ride like unicycles through the streets of Brooklyn. That could be a cool vibe for Tim, but it's up to him. Someone said, I used to be all about USA made, but they're pretty bad at using non-toxic materials. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other discussion, but not to pivot, but I'm thinking of this now that you're saying about the toxic stuff. They did a report on bread, and like even like organic bread has trace amounts of glyphosate in it. It's not good. I mean, even like the best brands have trace amounts of glyphosate. So we need to, in my opinion, stop using so much glyphosate, but they're not doing that. It's similar to maybe not all clothes, but it's like when your supply chain is like toxic and they're spraying toxic crap on everything, even things that aren't supposed to be toxic end up being somewhat toxic. So I'm not trying to fearmonger over it, but I feel like, with the food industry, it's like someone needs to care. And I think RFK is that person. So if he's not able to do it, nobody else cares. Trump doesn't care. So like, hopefully RFK could figure this out because they're ruining like all of our supply chains and like everything. So, everything you get can only be so much like non-toxic at this point, which is pretty creepy, unfortunately. Someone said goy slop. We like our goy slop here. You were right though. I hope I'm not wrong, or else I wouldn't have said it, but no, I appreciate it. Someone said Tim looks like Pinocchio. That's mean. That's anti-Timetic. Don't do that. I didn't watch the alternative. Real question, did Creed play? Dude, everybody's been fiending that Creed performance after that Dallas Cowboy one. That was fire for sure. Creed is like, he's like a top 10, like for the Caucasians, Creed just goes so hard, like with Arms Wide Open. If you even have like 50% European DNA, you just start crying immediately when you hear it. You just break down on your knees and go like that. So I know because I'm mostly European. So when I hear With Arms Wide Open, it doesn't matter where I am. I just drop to my knees and just start crying and just thinking about, basketball or something. No, I'm just kidding. But with arms wide open under the sunlight, welcome to. I don't even know why I'm crying, but these are tears of joy. I'm about to break down right here. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I wonder who they're going to pick next year. Someone said, I thought you were Puerto Rican. I've explained to people, I've never taken a DNA test, but my one grandfather was from Poland. So I'm Polish, I think 25% possibly. My grandma was Czechoslovakian. So does that mean I'm half Czech and half Slovakian, like on that side? So one grandfather from Poland, grandma from Czechoslovakia. My one grandma was from Puerto Rico, but she has told me in the past, I remember that she said she was also part French and German to some extent, like really small parts. And then I have a grandfather from Italy. So I would really need to take like a genetic test to figure out exactly what I am. But I know Polish, Czechoslovakian, Puerto Rican, Italian. Like that is where my family came from. All those places yeah. But I don't know. I kind of wanted to figure it out, but also I don't want to give my genetics to like weird families that are going to use them against me. So what do I do? I'm American, okay? You could test my DNA. It says 100% patriot. Yo, speaking of which, I love those baby dinosaur memes like from the dinosaur show. I'm loving those. Someone said sounds half Jew. I don't think I am, but if you want to think I am, I don't really care. But no, I'm not. I mean, maybe if I took a DNA test, I'd be like a little bit, and then everybody would be like, oh my gosh, we told you. But no one in my family's ever, I don't know, My Czechoslovakian grandma was Catholic. My Polish grandfather was super Polish. I don't think I am, but it's whatever. Where can I purchase your hats? Dreamrare.com. So that word dreamrare.com. And I think if you buy the like baseball type hats, like that guy was like, I don't like the beak. I think it just looks better curved. So just like curve it over time and I think it'll look cool. It's my opinion, but uh someone said his arms look Jewish. You think my arms look Jewish? I mean, that's an interesting statement. What do Jewish arms look like? Oh, sorry. I can't be Polish. Someone said I might be Jewish. I was born in Queens. We don't know who her mom was. LOL. Well, if you really want to know, you could take a DNA test. I don't know. Someone said 85% communist, 15% hip hop. I'm not a communist. Someone said, look at the guy's username. He might have an unhealthy obsession. I mean, it is what it is. I'm honest about myself. I've never taken a genetic test, but religiously, my grandma was Catholic. My grandfather was as well. My whole family was actually Catholic, to be honest, now that I think about it. I think growing up, my grandfather and my grandma was, but they weren't like super religious, I don't think. I mean, my Czechoslovakian grandma was, but she died pretty early, so I spent like 4 years with her and I was so young, but she was like the most Catholic one out of everybody. Someone said, "You look Italian and like a tall German, and tall like a German." Thank you. I don't, it is what it is. Someone said 50% Italian, 50% Polish, 100% black. How are you getting those? Is that what you are, you're saying? It's an interesting breakdown. Someone said, I could see the Polish in you. Yeah, I don't know. I do want to know like how much Czech I am and how much Slovakian, because like Czechoslovakia doesn't even exist anymore. So I would be curious to see like how that breakdown goes. But is there any way to check without like giving your genetics to some weird family that hates you? Because then I'd consider it. But someone's dude, he said I'm 67% femboy, bro. That's crazy, dude. Yeah, wild. You look like an American to me. I'm a patriot. I don't know. At the end of the day, like you can't choose how you came out. So I think regardless of who you are, you just have to be the best version of yourself and try to honor your family in the best way you can. I don't personally believe in hating on somebody because of their ethnic group, but I also don't think it is hate to be honest about certain things. Like talking about demographics and patterns and the truth is not hateful. Like it just because you want to go to Italy and see Italians and not like Africans, it doesn't make you racist. Just like if you went to Africa, if it looked like Italy, it wouldn't be Africa. It doesn't like there's a difference and a lot of people get lost in the sauce on all sides, but it's like I think it's evil to hate someone personally simply because of things that they were not able to choose as far as their ethnic group. But then also it's like liberals and some conservatives will say, "Oh, you're just being hateful because you're talking about that." You're allowed to notice patterns. You're now allowed to notice crime rates. You're allowed to be against immigration. That doesn't necessarily mean you're hateful, right? But some people do have hate in their hearts and some people don't. That's for God to decide, but I think there's a difference between the two. And for some reason people on the left and right can't figure out a lot of that. They're like the left is so naive and foolish about race, and then the right, even a lot of the right's naive and foolish about it. But then on the right, you have people that are, I don't know, just a little rude in my opinion. But everyone's allowed to see things the way they want. Someone said I'm a little African, kind of Italian with the good skin. It's good for the sun, probably. It sounds like a good sun combo. You don't get burned very much. Someone said my grandma and her sister were babies when their parents escaped Czechoslovakia with them to the Europe and the USA. Watched the movie Shot Through the Heart about the war. It's amazing. I wish I would have got to know my grandma more, who was Czechoslovakian. She died when I was like 4 or something, but I don't know. Like, nobody has told me anything about her family. Like, I wish I knew more about how she got to America and like what it was, what Czechoslovakia was like, stuff like that. Cause I would, or like what her ancestors were like. I only really got to talk about that with my grandfather's sister, who is Italian, and that was my aunt Mary. And she was very smart, and she knew everything about our Italian family. So I was able to ask her a lot of questions about that, and that was super cool. Because a lot of my family, like my parents, they don't know that much about like their ancestors. Like they know a little bit, but if I ask them, they're like, I'm not really sure. Like I had to go to the elders to really try to figure stuff out. And she told me what part of Italy they were from, etc. She actually told me, I remember this, that she said my grandma at like for whatever reason their family they lived on an island or something near Italy or something, and she told me that I don't know if they got kicked out or they had to leave, but they went to Puerto Rico from an island near Italy or something. And like I said, my Puerto Rican grandma told me she was also part French and German. So I wish I knew their story because like what happened there? How did they get from there to Puerto Rico, and how did she have those European like in her as well? I don't know. It's good to, if your family is still alive or like anybody knows. I think that's like what everyone should do is try to find somebody old in your family that knows stuff. Ask them everything, like because if you can't figure it out through them, you might lose that information forever. It's like cool ancestry, like that you don't need a genetic test to figure out. So I think that's something I wish I could do a little more than I did, but it's okay. Sicily landslides, real or fake news? I don't know. I'm not following like Italian news, unfortunately. Someone said, "Have I covered the billion-dollar kosher food industry that's subsidized by the consumer?" No, I haven't, but I would not be shocked if that were true because I think there's a lot of financial schemes going on that people are figuring out ways to save a lot of money. Um, all right, I got to run. Appreciate you guys. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. Thanks for hanging out. I'll be back soon, and I will say, yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. I'll try to have a few shorter ones this week, a few longer ones for those who like both. But let me know in the comment section what you think about all the stuff we talked about today, what you agree and disagree with. I appreciate it. And yeah, with no audience and no commentary, there's no show. So I'm very grateful for you guys, and I appreciate it. Thanks.